42 hours after my father fired me from the company I had helped keep alive for 16 years, he called me at 6:12 in the morning and said, "Donna, I need you to come back before the doors open." I was standing in my kitchen, waiting for the kettle to boil. Outside, a thin October rain tapped against the windows. The house was quiet. No ringing office phones, no delivery trucks backing into the loading bay, no employee texting me because a key had broken in the front lock or a client needed a revised invoice before sunrise. Just rain. And my father, breathing heavily into the phone. "You said I was no longer welcome in the building," I reminded him. "That was before." "Before what?" A pause. Then he said, "Before your sister tried to run the place." I looked at the cardboard file box sitting on my dining table. Inside it were 16 years of appointment books, payroll corrections, vendor agreements, insurance notices, password inventories, maintenance logs, client histories, tax reminders, and handwritten procedures that no one in my family had ever bothered to read. My father had called all of it clerical work. My sister had called it obsessive. I called it the reason our office opened every morning. The kettle clicked off. "I'm not coming back," I said. Then I poured my tea while my father began to beg. 2 days earlier, he had fired me in front of the entire staff. Not because I had failed, because I had embarrassed my younger sister. That was the official explanation. The real reason was that I had refused to pretend she had earned the position he wanted to give her. My father owned a commercial property management company called Mercer and Vail. The name sounded more distinguished than the business had been when I joined it. At the time, we managed 11 small buildings, most of them aging shopping plazas with leaking roofs, fading signs, and tenants who paid late. I was 26 and had recently completed a degree in business administration. My father offered me a temporary office position while I looked for something better. Temporary became permanent after I discovered that no one was tracking lease renewals accurately. Then, I found unpaid utility bills tucked beneath a stack of restaurant menus. Then, I learned that our maintenance contractors were submitting duplicate invoices, our insurance certificates were expiring without notice, and 3 tenants had been paying the wrong rent for nearly a year. My father was good at charming people. He could walk through a neglected building with an investor and make peeling paint sound like opportunity. He remembered birthdays, ordered expensive lunches, and knew how to make a client feel like the most important person in the room. He did not enjoy details. Details, he often said, were what employees were for. I became the employee who handled all of them. I built systems where there had been piles. I created renewal calendars, vendor folders, emergency contact sheets, inspection schedules, tenant ledgers, and property binders. I learned which air conditioning units failed every summer and which tenants mailed checks from banks that placed 7-day holds. I knew which clients wanted calls and which preferred email. I knew who would forgive a delay if told early and who would leave if they felt ignored. By my 5th year, we managed 34 properties. By my 10th, we managed 71. When I was fired, we managed 109. My father liked to say he had built the company through instinct. My mother preferred the word vision. My sister, Vanessa, called it our family legacy. No one mentioned the woman who arrived before 7 each morning and usually left after dark. I was the office manager, but the title never covered what I actually did. I handled payroll, human resources, client reporting, vendor disputes, insurance renewals, compliance inspections, accounts receivable, emergency maintenance coordination, lease administration, technology problems, employee training. And, when my father forgot an important promise he had made to someone, I quietly made the promise come true. I worked between 70 and 80 hours most weeks. My salary reflected 40. Whenever I asked about hiring additional support, my father would smile and say, "You're the only one I trust to do it properly." For years, I mistook that sentence for praise. It was not praise. It was a lock. My sister had never worked full-time at Mercer and Vail. She had tried 3 times. The first time, she lasted 6 weeks in client relations before deciding the office atmosphere was too negative. The second time, she became director of marketing and spent 4 months redesigning our logo, ordering embroidered jackets. and posting photographs of herself touring properties she had never visited before. The third time, my father created the title Vice President of Strategic Growth. No one knew what it meant. Vanessa seemed to believe it meant attending charity luncheons, recording short videos in our conference room, and describing herself online as a second-generation real estate executive. She was excellent at appearances. She understood angles, captions, lighting, and the usefulness of standing beside successful people. Our company's social media pages showed ribbon cuttings, catered meetings, polished lobbies, and photographs of Vanessa holding architectural plans. They did not show me at midnight, reviewing insurance exclusions because a client's building had been damaged in a storm. That was the arrangement in our family. Vanessa stood inside the frame. I held the wall steady. Growing up, she had been the charming child. I was the careful one. If Vanessa spilled grape juice on the carpet, my mother said she had been excited. If I forgot to put away a book, I was inconsiderate. If Vanessa interrupted adults, she was confident. If I corrected an inaccurate story, I was difficult. My father used to say I had a talent for making people uncomfortable with facts. He was right. Facts do make people uncomfortable when comfort depends on fiction. The trouble began when my father announced that Vanessa would become the new director of operations. He did it during a Monday leadership meeting. There were 9 people around the conference table: department heads, senior property managers, and our accountant. Vanessa sat beside my father wearing a cream suit and a gold watch large enough to catch the light every time she moved her hand. My father smiled broadly. "We're entering a new era," he said. "Vanessa is going to bring fresh energy and modern leadership to operations." No one spoke. I watched our accountant lower his eyes. The director of operations position did not exist. At least, it had not existed that morning. Then my father continued. "Donna will help transition her responsibilities over the next several weeks." That was when I understood. He was not placing Vanessa above me. He was giving her my work. My title would remain office manager, but I would be expected to train my sister, provide her with every system I had built, and allow her to present the results as leadership. Vanessa gave me a sympathetic smile. "I know change can feel threatening," she said. The room became very still. I folded my hands over my notebook. "What responsibilities will she be assuming?" My father's smile tightened. "Operations. That includes several areas: payroll, compliance, lease administration, vendor management, client reporting." Vanessa laughed softly. "This is exactly what Dad means. You get buried in the weeds. The weeds are where the deadlines are." My father leaned back in his chair. "Donna, this isn't the time." "It seems like the correct time. You've announced a leadership change." "I'm asking what is changing." Vanessa turned toward the others as though inviting them into a private joke. "I think we all know the office has become too dependent on one person." I agreed with that. It was the first accurate thing she had said. "Yes," I replied. "It has." Her smile faded. I opened my notebook and pushed a printed document across the table. It was a workload report I had completed 3 months earlier. The report listed every recurring administrative and operational responsibility performed in our office, the estimated hours required, the risk attached to each task, and the employee currently assigned. My name appeared beside 87% of them. I had shown the report to my father twice. He had never read it. "This explains the current workload distribution," I said. "If Vanessa is assuming operational control, we should assign specific functions and establish training timelines." My father did not touch the report. Vanessa glanced at the first page, then she pushed it back. "I don't need a manual to understand our family business." "No," I said. "You need a manual to run it." That was the sentence that ended my employment. Not immediately. First came the private meeting. My father closed the conference room door after everyone else left. My mother arrived 15 minutes later, even though she had no role in the company. That was how I knew the discussion had nothing to do with work. My mother sat beside Vanessa and placed one manicured hand over hers. My father remained standing. "You humiliated your sister," he said. I asked her what her job would include. "You challenged her authority in front of the leadership team. She did not have authority yesterday. She does now." Authority over which responsibilities? My father struck the table with his palm, not hard, just enough to create a sound. You see, my mother said softly, you always do this. You turn everything into an interrogation. I'm trying to understand the structure. Vanessa stared at the window. Her eyes were wet, but no tears fell. She had always been able to summon emotion without losing control of her makeup. I wanted us to work together, she whispered. I looked at her. No, you wanted my position without admitting that you needed my work. My mother inhaled sharply. My father pointed toward me. That attitude is exactly why people find you impossible. Which people? This isn't a courtroom. No. In a courtroom, statements require support. For a moment, no one moved. Then my father walked to the door, opened it, and said, "Clear out your desk." I thought he was trying to frighten me. So did my mother. She looked at him and said, "Richard." But Vanessa remained silent. That was when I knew she had expected it, perhaps even requested it. My father lifted his chin. "You heard me. If you can't respect your sister's role, you have no place here." I waited for the shock. It did not come. Instead, I felt something inside me become quiet, a mechanism releasing. A key turning. "All right," I said. My father's expression changed. He had expected an argument, or tears, or an apology. He had built the moment around my resistance, and I had removed it. I returned to my office. My office was the smallest private room in the building, positioned between the supply closet and the employee kitchen. Vanessa's new office had windows. I packed my personal belongings into 2 boxes: a framed photograph of my dog, 3 coffee mugs, a cardigan, a small brass desk clock, a fountain pen, and the paper calendar I had maintained alongside our digital systems because digital systems fail at the most inconvenient times. I did not take company records. I did not delete files. I did not change passwords. I did not sabotage anything. I simply stopped doing the work. Before leaving, I placed a sealed envelope on my father's desk. Inside was a formal notice identifying 7 urgent matters requiring action within the next 10 business days. Payroll tax submission, 2 insurance renewals, a municipal inspection, a major lease expiration, a pending vendor dispute, a client reporting deadline, and the final payment required to keep our property management software active. I also included instructions explaining where the relevant documents could be found. My father never opened the envelope. I learned that later. He handed it to Vanessa. She left it in the back seat of her car. By 5 that afternoon, my company email had been disabled. At 6, Vanessa posted a photograph of herself seated behind my father's desk. The caption read, "Honored to step into a new season of leadership at Mercer and Vail. Grateful for a father who believes in bold transitions and a team ready for positive change." My mother shared it. Then she added, "So proud of the woman you've become. Grace under pressure." I saw the post while eating soup at my kitchen table. For the first time in years, I had arrived home before dark. I slept for 10 hours. The next morning, I woke at 7 and panicked because I thought I had missed a client call. Then I remembered. No one was waiting for me. I spent the day doing ordinary things: laundry, groceries, a long walk. At noon, our senior property manager, Martin, called my personal phone. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said. "Do you know where the Westbridge renewal files are?" "Yes." He waited. I said nothing else. "Could you tell me?" "Martin, I no longer work for the company." "I know." "I just thought I left written instructions," he sighed. "Vanessa says there aren't any." "There are." "Where?" "In the sealed envelope on my father's desk." There was a long silence. Then he said, "That envelope is gone." It was not gone when I left. By 3, 4 more employees had called. I did not answer. At 5:40, Vanessa texted me, "Need administrator password for payroll." I replied, "The current credentials are stored in the secure password vault. Access instructions are in the transition envelope." She wrote back immediately, "Stop being petty and send it." I did not respond. At 8:16 that evening, my father called for the first time. I let it go to voicemail. "Donna, this is getting ridiculous. Vanessa needs access to several systems. Call the office." His tone was irritated, not worried. That changed overnight. At 6:12 the next morning, he called again. That was the call I answered. That was when he begged me to return before the doors opened. What happened? I asked. He exhaled. Payroll didn't process. It can still be submitted manually before noon. No one knows how. There are instructions. We can't find them. Ask Vanessa to check the back seat of her car. Silence. How do you know it's there? Because Martin told me the envelope disappeared after you gave it to her, and Vanessa often puts papers in her car when she doesn't want to read them. My father lowered his voice. Donna, I don't have time for this. That has always been the problem. What do you want? The question surprised me. My family had rarely asked what I wanted. They usually told me what I should accept. I want you to solve the problem using your new director of operations. She's overwhelmed. It has been 42 hours. That's why I'm asking you to come in. As what? A pause. Office manager? No. Fine. Senior office manager? No. Donna, people are waiting to be paid. That reached me, not because of him, because there were 38 employees, many with families, mortgages, and automatic payments scheduled. I walked to the dining table and opened my file box. What time is the payroll cutoff? 11. I'll correct it as an independent contractor. My father sounded relieved. Good, come in now. I'll work remotely. My emergency rate is $250 an hour with an 8-hour minimum. Payment is due before I begin. He went silent. Then he laughed once. It was not amusement. You're charging your own father $2,000. I'm charging a company that terminated me and now requires emergency professional services. This is extortion. No, extortion involves a threat. I have made no threat. You are free to decline. He spoke through his teeth. Send the invoice. I did. He paid it 19 minutes later. I logged into the payroll system using emergency administrator credentials and discovered that Vanessa had locked the primary account after entering the wrong password repeatedly. She had also changed 3 employee classifications, deleted a tax code, and attempted to add herself to the executive bonus schedule. In less than 2 days, she had damaged a process that had run without interruption for 11 years. I corrected the errors. I processed payroll. I downloaded an audit report, and I saved it. Paper, always paper. At 10:47, I emailed my father confirmation that payroll had been submitted. At 10:51, he called. Can you stay logged in? No, we have other problems. I know. How? Because the deadlines were listed in the envelope. He sighed. We found it. Good. Vanessa says the instructions are excessive. They are detailed. She says no normal office needs this much documentation. No normal office depends on one person for 90% of its essential functions. My father did not reply. That afternoon, he paid for another 8-hour block. The next day, he paid again. By the end of the week, I had earned more as a contractor than I usually earned in a month. I did not return to the building. I did not speak to Vanessa. I addressed one emergency at a time, documented every action, and sent copies to the company accountant. Then I began to notice things I had not seen while working inside the office. Distance changes the angle of a problem. For years, I had been so busy preventing disasters that I had not asked why so many disasters seemed to begin near my sister. While reviewing a vendor dispute, I found invoices from a marketing company called North Elm Creative. The company had been paid nearly $90,000 over 18 months. I recognized the services: photography, video production, brand consulting, event promotion. Most of it supported Vanessa's online campaigns. What I did not recognize was the address. It matched a condominium owned by one of Vanessa's closest friends. I searched the state corporate registry. North Elm Creative had been formed 2 weeks before Mercer and Vail issued its first payment. The registered manager was Vanessa, not directly. She had used her married name, which she rarely used professionally. I pulled the vendor onboarding form. My electronic approval appeared at the bottom. I had never approved it. The signature was a scanned image taken from an unrelated insurance document. I sat very still. Then I began gathering records. Invoices, bank transfers, email authorizations, corporate filings, metadata, approval logs. The deeper I looked, the cleaner the pattern became. Vanessa had created a company, billed our family business for vague marketing services, and used my copied signature to authorize payments. Some services had been performed, most had not. The money had funded luxury travel, designer purchases, and the renovation of her kitchen, all of which she had displayed online as evidence of entrepreneurial success. The frame was polished. The paper beneath it was rotten. I contacted an attorney, not the company attorney, my own. Her name was Miriam Shaw, a former compliance investigator with a quiet voice and an orderly office. I brought her a binder. She read for nearly an hour before speaking. Does your father know? I don't think so. Does the accountant? I don't know. Do you want to report this? I want to make sure my name is separated from it. Miriam tapped the forged approval. That part needs to happen immediately. We notified the company's insurer, accountant, and outside legal counsel. We did not notify my family first. That was deliberate. Facts are strongest before people have time to rearrange them. 3 days later, my father asked me to meet privately at his house. I brought Miriam. He did not appreciate that. My mother sat in the living room, wearing the expression she reserved for funerals and public disappointments. Vanessa stood near the fireplace. My father held a copy of the North Elm binder. His face looked older. You reported your sister to our insurer, he said. I reported forged financial documents bearing my name. You could have come to us. I did come to you about operational controls for years. This is different. Yes, Vanessa crossed her arms. It was a reimbursement structure. Miriam spoke for the first time. Then you will have contracts, work product, tax records, and authorizations supporting the payments. Vanessa looked at my father. Why is she here? Because Donna has legal representation. My mother pressed a tissue beneath one eye. Imagine what this will do to the family. I looked at her. Imagine what it could have done to me. Vanessa's voice sharpened. You weren't going to prison. You used my signature. It was convenient. The simplicity of the answer silenced the room. Convenient. 16 years of work, my professional reputation, my name, reduced to convenience. My father looked at Vanessa. Tell me you didn't know it was illegal. She stared back at him. I knew it was technical. Miriam closed her folder. That is not a legal distinction. My father began pacing. He said we needed time. He said the company's anniversary gala was 2 weeks away. He said major clients would be attending. He said rumors could destroy everything he had built. Then he gave me an ultimatum. Withdraw the fraud notification, sign a statement saying I had previously authorized the vendor, and return as operations manager after the gala. In exchange, Vanessa would step away from financial responsibilities for 6 months. My mother called it a path toward healing. I called it another forged document, except this time they wanted me to sign it myself. No, I said. My father stopped pacing. You are willing to destroy this family over paperwork. No, I'm refusing to be destroyed by it. Vanessa laughed bitterly. You've been waiting for this. You've always resented me. I considered arguing. Then I realized the statement required no answer. Some accusations are not questions. They are doors painted onto walls. You cannot walk through them. I stood. My father pointed toward me. If you proceed with this, do not come to the gala. I wasn't planning to, but I did attend, not as a guest. The Anniversary Gala was held at the Ashbourne Hotel, a restored downtown building with marble floors, brass elevators, and a ballroom large enough to make ordinary people feel temporarily important. Mercer & Vale was celebrating 30 years in business. Vanessa had spent months planning it. There were silver banners, flower walls, custom lighting, and a looping video showing my father shaking hands at properties across the city. Vanessa appeared in nearly every third image. I appeared once, in the background, holding a clipboard. The event was also meant to announce our largest contract yet, management of a 12-building medical office portfolio owned by Halston Community Trust. That contract would increase company revenue by almost 40%. The chairman of the trust, Graham Bellamy, had final signing authority. He also happened to be a retired judge. Miriam and I arrived 20 minutes before the contract ceremony. I wore a dark blue dress and carried one slim document case. No box, no spectacle, just paper. My name was not on the guest list, but Graham had invited me after reviewing the insurer's notice. We met in a small conference room beside the ballroom. The company accountant was already there, along with outside counsel and a representative from the insurer. I placed certified copies of the forged approvals on the table, then the bank records, then the corporate filings, then the system audit showing Vanessa's attempted changes after my termination. No one raised their voice. That is the strange thing about serious consequences. They often arrive quietly. The insurer's representative reviewed the documents and said, "We are suspending fidelity coverage pending investigation." The accountant said, "I cannot certify the current financial statements." Outside counsel said, "The contract cannot be executed tonight." Graham closed the binder. "Then we will not execute it." From the ballroom, applause began. My father was being introduced. We could hear the master of ceremonies praising his leadership, integrity, and family values. Graham stood. I should tell him before he steps onto the stage. We entered through a side door. The room glowed beneath chandeliers. Nearly 300 clients, vendors, employees, and local business leaders faced the stage. My father stood behind the curtain. Vanessa was beside him in a red evening gown, smiling toward the photographer. Then she saw me. Her smile disappeared. My mother followed her gaze. My father turned last. Graham approached him and spoke quietly. I could not hear every word. I did not need to. I watched my father's shoulders lower. Then he looked at the document case in my hand. Outside counsel joined them. The insurer's representative stood nearby. The photographer lowered his camera. A few people in the front rows began whispering. The master of ceremonies waited at the podium, uncertain. Vanessa stepped toward Graham. There must be some misunderstanding. He handed her one of the certified filings. "No," he said. "There appears to be considerable understanding." The microphone was still on. His words traveled farther than he intended. The room changed. Not loudly. Heads turned. Phones lowered. People who had spent the evening trying to be seen suddenly became very interested in observing. My father asked the master of ceremonies to announce a short delay. Graham shook his head. "The signing is canceled." This time, everyone heard him. Vanessa looked at me. For once, there was no performance in her face, only recognition. She understood that the frame had broken. Not because I had attacked it, because someone had finally looked behind it. The gala ended early. The flower wall remained. The champagne remained. The anniversary video continued playing silently on the ballroom screens until a hotel employee turned it off. The legal consequences unfolded over the next year. Vanessa was charged with fraud, identity misuse, and falsification of business records. She avoided prison through a negotiated plea, restitution, community service, and several years of supervised probation. Her social media accounts disappeared for a while. When she returned, she described the experience as a private season of growth. She never mentioned the forged signature. My father was not charged, but the company suffered. The Halston contract was permanently withdrawn. 2 clients left. The insurer increased premiums and required independent financial controls. My father sold several management accounts to cover the losses and Vanessa's restitution agreement. Mercer and Vail survived, though smaller than before. The Anniversary Gala became the last large company event he ever hosted. My mother told relatives that I had chosen paperwork over family. Some believed her. Others called me privately and admitted they had always wondered how Vanessa afforded her life. That is another thing about truth. Once it becomes safe to acknowledge, many people claim they suspected it all along. My father asked me to return 3 times. The final offer included a partnership share. I declined. Trust is not restored by improving the title on the door. I used my consulting income and settlement from the forged signature claim to open a small operations firm. I help family-owned businesses document their systems, separate duties, strengthen controls, and prepare for leadership transitions. My clients often tell me they do not know how their companies would function without one particular employee. I tell them that is not loyalty, it is risk. Sometimes it is exploitation wearing the face of trust. My work week is now 45 hours, occasionally 50. Never 80. I have a bright office with 2 windows and a door that closes. On Friday afternoons, I review the next week's calendar, clear my desk, and leave written instructions for anything someone else may need. No one is indispensable. That includes me. There is peace in that. On the first anniversary of my firing, I woke early and made tea. Rain touched the kitchen windows, just as it had the morning my father called begging me to return. My dog slept beneath the table. A file box sat near the bookshelf, but it no longer held records from Mercer and Vail. It held letters from clients thanking me for helping them prevent losses, train employees, or finally take a vacation without fearing their business would collapse. I do not display the letters online. I do not photograph them. I do not need them to become part of a frame. It is enough that they exist, documented, real. For most of my life, my family treated my quietness as weakness because it did not compete with their noise. They were wrong. Quiet people notice where things are placed. We remember what was promised. We save the email. We keep the receipt. We understand that every story eventually meets its record. So, if you are the person carrying an entire family, office, or business while someone else receives the praise, do not waste your strength trying to shout louder. Document what you do. Protect your name. Build an exit before you need one. And remember this, a beautiful frame can influence what people see, but paper decides what is true.